Well, Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling and Ricky Gervais have proved that if you stand up to the woke, eventually you win. J.K. Rowling's book sales went from $7 million to $11.9 million worth last year.
J.K. Rowling and Ricky Gervais have shown that standing up against woke culture can lead to victory. Take Rowling, for example. Her book sales skyrocketed from $7 million to a staggering $1.9 billion last year. That's right, billion. The creator of the globally beloved Harry Potter series not only brought magic to life, but has also taken a stand against the dominant woke narrative in Hollywood.
Followed by a number of deliberately misspelled versions of the word woman. Now, there was instant backlash to that. She was accused of being transphobic.
It all started with a tweet. Rowling criticized Scotland's controversial hate crime laws, which she argued prioritized the rights of trans-identifying individuals while undermining the safety of biological women. Her critique of Scottish First Minister Humza Yousaf sent shockwaves through social media, sparking a firestorm of backlash. Accusations of transphobia flew at Rowling, but she didn't back down. Instead, she doubled down, accusing Yousaf of pandering to a radical gender agenda at the expense of women's rights.
Harry Potter came to me on a train in 1990. I was sitting just staring out of the window, and the idea just fell out of nowhere. It was the purest stroke of inspiration I've ever had in my life, and I've been writing about him ever since.
Rowling's critique ignited a fierce debate, but she remained steadfast, calling the hate crime laws a disaster waiting to happen. These laws, she argued, were designed to silence women, especially those advocating for their safety and rights in female-only spaces.
The beginning of the end for Humza Yousaf started when J.K. Rowling condemned Scotland's newly imposed hate crime laws, which extended to trans-identifying people but ignored biological women.
Then came the 2024 Paris Olympics. A female boxer, A.M. Kef, found herself embroiled in a gender eligibility controversy, and things got even more heated when Kef filed a cyberbullying lawsuit against Rowling, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump, claiming they fueled online harassment against her. Social media lit up with accusations that Rowling was deleting tweets and running scared, but nothing could be further from the truth.
أنا نوجه رسالتي لكامل شعوب العالم أنهم يكونوا متمسكين بالمبادئ الأولمبية حسب الميثاق الأولمبي وابتعاد عن التنمر على جميع الرياضيين لأنه هذا الشيء أثر ويأثر كثير وكثير.
Rowling re-emerged more determined than ever, standing firm in her position on the fairness of women's sports. She called out the absurdity of allowing biological men to compete against women, pointing out the injustice faced by young female athletes whose years of training were negated by such policies.
Testosterone is not a perfect test. Many women can have testosterone which is in what would be called male levels and still be women as women. So I'm going to see this idea that suddenly you do test for testosterone and that's also everything. Not the case, I'm afraid.
In the end, Rowling refused to be silenced, demonstrating that standing up for what you believe in, no matter how unpopular, can pay off. Her resilience and unyielding stance against woke ideology have not only fueled debates, but also solidified her legacy as a cultural warrior.
A young female boxer has just had everything she's worked and trained for snatched away because you allowed a male to get in the ring with her. You're a disgrace, your safeguarding is a joke, and ours Paris 24 will be forever tarnished by the brutal injustice done to Karine.
As you can see, this is the infamous tweet from Rowling, where she claims that she would want to be a martyr for the transphobic movement, writing, "I'd happily do 2 years if the alternative is compelled speech and forced denial of the reality of the importance of Bring on the court case, I say. It'll be more fun than I've ever had on a red carpet."
Imagine this. You create one of the most iconic film franchises in history, turning unknown actors like Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Eddie Redmayne into global superstars. You build an entire magical world that captivates generations of fans, making these actors household names. Then, suddenly, those very same stars who owe their careers to your creation publicly turn against you. This is precisely what happened to J.K. Rowling, the mastermind behind the Harry Potter universe. Once celebrated by millions, Rowling found herself in the crosshairs of the very Hollywood machine she helped fuel.
Daniel Radcliffe has admitted he hasn't spoken to J.K. Rowling in years and branded the fallout over their trans views as sad. The 34-year-old said,
At the center of this fallout is the topic of gender identity, an issue that has divided not only Hollywood but the world. Daniel Radcliffe, the face of Harry Potter himself, openly declared that trans women are women in response to Rowling's comments about gender and women's rights. Radcliffe didn't stop there. He admitted that he hasn't spoken to Rowling in years and expressed regret over the pain her statements may have caused. He even issued an apology, stating that it saddened him to see the Harry Potter fandom divided over the controversy. For Radcliffe, the issue was clear. Erasing the identity and dignity of transgender individuals went against what healthcare professionals had advised, and he felt compelled to speak out against it.
I have heard this. This is something that has come up every so often for the last few years, and every time it comes up, I'm like, that's not true.
Emma Watson, another of Rowling's beloved protégés, also weighed in, using social media to make her stance known. Watson took to Twitter, writing, "Trans people are who they say they are and deserve to live their lives without being constantly questioned or told they aren't who they say they are." She added that she wanted her trans followers to know that she saw them, respected them, and loved them for who they were. Watson's post, filled with hashtags and affirmations of support for the LGBTQ+ community, was praised widely by activists and fans who applauded her for taking a stand during Pride Month.
She tweeted, "Trans people are who they say they are and deserve to live their lives without being constantly questioned or told they aren't who they say they are." She went on to say, "I want my trans followers to know that I and so many other people around the world see you, respect you, and love you for who you are. Happy Pride, sending love."
Eddie Redmayne, the star of Rowling's spin-off franchise Fantastic Beasts, also criticized Rowling, claiming that she was simply wrong in her views. Redmayne, who portrayed a character created by Rowling in her magical universe, went as far as to say that trans women are women unequivocally. Redmayne expressed frustration that Rowling was facing backlash, not for her creative work, but for her opinions on transgender rights, which he found deeply upsetting.
He was so upset that Rowling was facing criticism for her anti-transgender tweets and her 3,700-word rambling diatribe against transgender people.
Rowling's reaction to this wave of criticism from Hollywood was nothing short of defiant. Rather than retreating, she stood firm in her beliefs, defending her stance on women's rights and gender issues. Rowling argued that these actors were supporting a movement that, in her view, threatened to undermine the rights of women by blurring the lines between biological sex and gender identity. She believed that some aspects of the transgender rights movement, particularly around the issue of transitioning children, posed significant risks that were being ignored in favor of political correctness.
J.K. Rowling, to deliberately, and that is the key word, misgender me, knowing who I am, is grossly offensive. It is a hate crime.
This wasn't the first time Rowling found herself at odds with the woke crowd. One of the most extreme moments in her battle with activists came when a group called for her arrest. Yes, you read that right. Activists actually petitioned for Rowling to be arrested under hate crime laws for allegedly misgendering someone on Twitter. This all stemmed from a tweet where Rowling expressed her views on gender, which some activists deemed to be a form of hate speech. However, instead of backing down, Rowling went into full savage mode, publicly daring the police to arrest her. She made it clear that she would not be silenced by threats or legal action, and she wasn't afraid to take her stance all the way to the courtroom if necessary.
There has been a huge backlash against the transgender community, and specifically transgender social media star Dylan Mulvaney after they got a brand deal from Bud Light.
A beer is now promoting itself during March Madness, a male-oriented event, by hiring a man who says he is a woman dressed as Audrey Hepburn to sell you beer.
Perhaps one of the most significant moments in Rowling's ongoing struggle against the woke movement came when her warnings about transitioning children began to gain traction in mainstream discourse. For years, Rowling had raised concerns about the growing trend of transitioning minors, arguing that children with gender dysphoria were often rushed into life-altering treatments like puberty blockers and hormone therapies without fully understanding the long-term consequences. At the time, her comments were met with harsh backlash from activists who accused her of being out of touch and promoting dangerous ideas. However, Rowling's warnings were later echoed by the NHS, National Health Service, in the UK. The NHS began to pull back on the use of puberty blockers and hormone treatments for minors, citing concerns about the long-term effects and the lack of comprehensive research on the outcomes of these interventions. This was a massive vindication for Rowling, as many of her critics were forced to reconsider their positions in light of these new developments. What once seemed like an outlandish and controversial opinion had now gained the backing of the medical community, and Rowling's supporters were quick to point out that she had been right all along.
Not knowing where to turn, she went to a gender identity clinic and started treatment, including surgery, to become Quincy. 8 years on, she wants to transition back to being a woman and is suing the NHS.
It's such a serious process to go down, and it's so experimental because, you know, doctors don't even know, you know, the outcomes of a lot of these treatments that are given out. I should have been, you know, told to wait and not affirmed in my gender identity.
One particularly heartbreaking example that Rowling highlighted was the story of a young woman who had transitioned as a minor only to regret the decision later in life. After undergoing gender-affirming surgery, this individual sued the NHS, claiming that she had been pushed too quickly into a medical transition that she wasn't ready for. The lawsuit brought attention to the fact that many medical professionals were too quick to affirm a child's gender identity without fully exploring the psychological and emotional factors at play. This case, and others like it, served as powerful evidence supporting Rowling's argument that the rush to transition children could have serious, irreversible consequences. Despite facing endless online vitriol, being labeled a TERF, trans-exclusionary radical feminist, and enduring constant attempts to cancel her, Rowling has refused to back down. She has remained steadfast in her commitment to protecting women's rights and advocating for careful, informed decisions when it comes to transitioning minors. For Rowling, this has never been about attacking the trans community. It's about ensuring that vulnerable children are safeguarded and that women's hard-earned rights aren't eroded in the process. Rowling's journey from beloved author to one of the most controversial figures in modern culture is a testament to her resilience. She's faced lawsuits, public humiliation, celebrity betrayals, and even police investigations, yet she has emerged stronger each time. The cancel culture mob has tried to silence her repeatedly, but they've failed to knock her down. Each attempt to corner Rowling has only made her push back harder, solidifying her position as a fearless advocate for free speech and the protection of women's rights. So, what's your take on the situation? Is J.K. Rowling a fearless warrior standing up against the woke Hollywood machine, or is the backlash she's faced justified? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more Hollywood drama and thought-provoking commentary.